Hi, this is Rob from OnlineVideoSolutions. I thought I'd do this quick test since I have both the Panasonic GH4 and the Sony PXW X70. They both have reasonable size sensors. Obviously the GH4 has the micro 4/3 sensor and the X70 has the 1-inch sensor. So what I've done here is put a mannequin up along with the One Shot Daily's reference chart, color chart, and zoomed in, zoomed in manually, set it as close as possible. You will see on the screenshot now the settings for both cameras, f4, 0 dB or 200 ISO, so the lowest setting, 50 shutter speed, and 1080 25p. So got them as close as possible to each other, same distance away. Everything is as close as I can match them so we can see the difference. So what I'm essentially going to do in this short test is just ramp up the gain and ISO on the two cameras so you can see how they perform. So straight out of the gate you can see the GH4 is already, by the look of it, is slightly brighter. I'm looking at it specifically now without putting it on the editing suite. So I'm just looking at the little reference monitors behind the cameras. And what I'm going to do now is start with the Sony X70, and we're just going to ramp up the gain here. So as we go up with the Sony gain, that's now at 3 dB gain, and to my eye that looks, from the monitors on the two cameras, about similar. So 3 dB gain seems to equal around 200 ISO. Obviously when we get on the timeline, or if we can get vector scope and waveform, we'll get more accurate readings, but this is just a quick test of the two cameras side by side. So you can also see the picture quality if you zoom in. They're both doing 1080p 25, as I've said. So now I'm going to ramp up the GH4 from 200 to 400, and I'm going to do the same on the Sony, up that from 3 dB to 6 dB. I'm not sure if that's exactly the same or similar. If we go to 9 on here, it seems to be about the same. So 9 dB around 400 ISO. Really just a side-by-side test so you can see more so excuse me, more so the low light, and also, you know, the noise that gets introduced as we ride the gain and ISO. So we're now going to go up on the Sony, sorry, on the GH4, we're going to go up to 800 ISO. And on the Sony we're going to up that from 9 to, that's 12 dB. And if we go up again, that's 15 dB. Trying to look at them here to see if they look similar. They look about similar to me. Obviously you can see the difference in color balance. Even though we have white balanced against the white background, there's obviously still a different color tint. Using the no step profiles on the X70, there's no profiles whatsoever on there, and the standard setting on the GH4. So as stock standard with the color settings as possible. So now let's ramp the GH4 up to 1600 ISO. And if we push up the Sony X70 here, that's 18 dB. If we go up again, we're looking at 21 dB. That looks a little bit brighter than the GH4. Okay, so we're going to now move the GH4 up to 3200. And we're going to move the Sony from 21 dB to 24. That looks pretty similar. I'm going to then up the GH4 to 6400 ISO. So that's 6400, the max the GH4 can do. The Sony now goes to 27 dB, now goes to 33 dB, and finally the max at 33 dB. Now what I'm going to do now is actually just switch off the light here, because all we have is a standard one light in the office. And if I switch that off, we now have both cameras in a pretty much low light situation. Very slight light coming in from one window on the side. It's overcast today as well, so you can kind of see the difference. And I'm now going to just slowly go backwards again. So on the GH4 we're going to go down to 3200, and on the Sony we're going 30, 27, 24. Looks similar to me. We're now going to go down to 1600 ISO on the GH4, And we're at 24 now on the Sony X70. We're going to go down 21, 18. That looks about similar. Again, this will obviously be a bit different possibly when we get it onto the timeline. We're going to go down again from 1600 ISO on the GH4 to 800. And from 18 dB now we're going to 15, down to 12 on the Sony X70. So now we're going down to 400 on the GH4. We're going down from 12 to 9, down to 6. That's a bit darker then, so that's a little closer. And now finally down to 200. So that's the lowest the GH4 will go, and now we start to go down on the Sony. So we're at 9, going down to 6, to 3, and to 0. So obviously at the lower settings, the X70 has, you know, it's a lot darker than the GH4. The GH4 has definitely got more, you know, gain at its minimum level of 200. And again, I'm just going to ramp them both all the way up to the top. So the GH4 goes all the way to 6400, and the Sony goes all the way up to 33 dB. So we'll need to put this on the timeline, but it could be that the Sony might have a little bit more sort of exposure range, for want of a better word. But it also gives you an opportunity just to see the quality of the pictures between the two of them, matched as close as possible with a color chart, and you can obviously punch in and have a look at the fine grain hair on the mannequin as well. So I hope that's been useful, just a little test between these two cameras because we have got them here in the office.